Going in depth, Fox Carolina is committed to you. It's why when a man in Greenville County reached out to us about the sheriff's office holding him at gunpoint on a warrant call in the middle of the night for a criminal who didn't live there, we wanted to find out how and why this happened.
You know, you're not even thinking the police. You just don't know if somebody's trying to break in the house.
William Prince reached out to Fox Carolina after he says the Greenville County Sheriff's Office showed up to his home in the middle of the night, guns drawn, looking for a wanted suspect.
My dog started barking, and then that's what woke me up. And at that point, I started hearing a loud banging on the front door.
Prince says it was just after 3 a.m., pitch black outside. He says there are no street lights near his home on Sunny Lane in Piedmont.
At that point, I did not know what was going on, so I grabbed my handgun, and I had already looked out the window, couldn't see anything, grabbed my handgun, moving towards the door.
While Prince was inside his house, he says his girlfriend was staying in a camper just feet from the house.
She heard the commotion, and she grabbed her handgun and went to the door and opened up the door of the motorhome.
Fox Carolina reached out to the sheriff's office to request the radio traffic from the deputies on scene during those early morning hours. Most of the minute and a half of audio is of deputies talking with a dispatcher about their location.
19 at the Dollar General.
You also hear the moment Prince's girlfriend turns the light on to the RV after hearing the knocks.
We got lights in this RV over here.
Seconds later, you hear the moment Prince walked out.
Hey, he's coming out over here.
As I was going through the living room, she had turned the porch light on in the motorhome, which allowed me to see through the window. I saw the uniforms and their flashlights. So at that point, I put my handgun down and I came to the door. When I opened up the door, I had two sheriff's deputies, one on my back deck, because I came out the back door, and one sheriff's deputy on the grass, and they both had their handguns out.
While both Prince and his girlfriend were being held at gunpoint, he says deputies started asking them questions. Then once things calmed down,
it dawned on me this is the same person that they had been to the house out on numerous occasions before, and each time I had told them this person no longer lives here, hasn't lived here in over 5 years. I purchased the house 5 years ago, and I couldn't understand why they kept coming out. And they told me, well, he's still listed here in DMV records. And I said, well, you need to get something straightened out.
A mix-up Prince knows that could have gone several different ways.
This could have gone very badly.
Once Prince reached out to us, we got in touch with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Ryan Flood says deputies use multiple databases to find an address on a suspect they're working to get a warrant on.
Then we're obligated to go out and serve that warrant. Now, when we go out to a residence and the people who are living there say that the person doesn't live there, then our first responsibility is to do our due diligence to ensure that the person is actually being truthful, or, you know, isn't perhaps trying to hide and cover up for the individual we're looking for.
Flood says if deputies determine their suspect is no longer living at the address on the warrant, they're supposed to update that information. Such was the case with William Prince on Sunny Lane, after he says deputies first came to his house in 2016.
I had told them before, and I've called the sheriff's department, and they still came here in 3:30 in the morning.
The problem is if several years later, the same suspect has more warrants, and then a deputy who had no knowledge of that case prior goes to get warrants, and then he pulls from that database, and that database is still showing that same address, then he's going to go to that address, or she's going to go to that address and attempt to locate the individual. So again, you know, it's an honest mistake that can happen. It's not common, but you know, stuff like this can happen where we go to an address that is no longer the active address for the person we're looking for. In this particular case, you know, the individual was not taken into custody, not placed in the back of a patrol car or in handcuffs, and the issue was resolved. But again, that's how these types of incidents can happen. You know, it's all about communication and trying to get these databases updated.
Prince says he has no animosity towards the sheriff's office. He just hopes this might lead to more oversight.
I know the job's hard. and I'm sure that the sheriff's deputies were going off of information that they had. It's just that the information was wrong.
Now, as far as an arrest warrant goes, they're expected to be served within a reasonable time. However, I looked a little deeper and found in South Carolina there is no statute of limitations on an arrest warrant. We should also mention that the sheriff's office says they have updated their databases and don't plan to be back out at that address on Sunny Lane.